Welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time and joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So we were just chatting a minute ago. We met 3 or 4 years ago at a conference in Southern California, and you were describing to me what you were working on. You have a lot of experience in finance, and what I remember you describing to me then, this is at like a cocktail party, so my memory might be a little bit hazy. You were launching an ETF that's based on economic freedom. And you described it to me. I thought it was cool and made a lot of sense. But that was in the early phases of your operation 3 or 4 years ago. Since then, you've launched this fund. It appears to be doing well because I see it on TV all the time and just making the rounds in the financial media. And you've just done a really good job of attracting attention to what you're doing. And I'm thrilled to talk to you about the fund, the strategy, and the process of launching an ETF in general.
Yeah, great. Happy to talk about that. The fund is actually both personal and economic freedom. So, we believe that both types of freedoms work together, and we can kind of get into the details there as far as what that means and how we measure it. So when I came back, I worked at Fidelity. I had clients who told me, hey, I don't want to invest in Russia. For example, my Russian client said, I don't want to invest in Russia because it's like funding terrorism. And look how prescient that was today. So I started thinking of ways to invest in emerging markets without funding autocracies. I didn't want to invest in China because I kind of saw what was going on over there. I had clients who didn't want to invest in their home countries because of what they know to go on there. But most emerging markets funds were very autocracy heavy. So they had, right now, even there's still, 30 to 40% in the world's worst autocracies in most emerging markets funds that are market cap weighted. And so I created a way to basically have that emerging markets exposure without funding autocracies and also giving the freer countries a higher weight, because we do expect those freer countries with stronger institutions, better rule of law, more individual investor protections to outperform in the long run. So freedom weighting is kind of our answer to market cap weighting in emerging markets. And that's what we do.
Interesting. And there's been a lot of, one way to describe it might be noise or nonsense in that. You have some fund managers and companies that are kind of clamoring to claim that they're ESG friendly when they're really not, or they really have, stuff that you would expect to be omitted. And then on the other hand, so there are a lot of investors around the world that are interested in investing their savings, their dollars in that manner.
I'm just really happy with the way things turned out.
From a methodology standpoint, you've done a really good job at it. It's reasonable to think that if you have any other positives that you're going to add to the menu here, you might be more likely to outperform in terms of the next 5 years. The companies that don't, those are still super profitable companies that you're not incorporating into the portfolio. So I'm curious how you think about this in light of
to different markets,
the index that you've built and maintained through the ETF, and what you see in the landscape right now.
There are a lot of people, as far as ESG, we've actually tried to distance ourselves from emerging markets ESG strategies that are cap weighted, just because ESG on the security level, as I mentioned, in emerging markets is really somewhat useless if you don't first have the country level metrics in place. So if you ignore country level governance and social factors or environmental factors, but you have security level, that security level data isn't reliable enough to measure the impact of your investments without that independent verification on that data, which may not exist in some of these emerging markets, right? And ESG is also a talking point that is used by dictators to give legitimacy to investing in their own countries, because any dictator can claim ESG, right? How many times has China said they're the world leaders in ESG, and they're literally the world's worst polluters? Right. So, and there's genocide going on besides other issues, human rights issues. So, it's a very dubious claim that, but dictators can use to kind of further their own interests by using this ESG claim. I'm just really happy with the way things turned out.
Well, you've done a really good job at it. What's next for you? Do you have any other funds that you're going to add to the menu here? What are you thinking about in terms of the
We
next
do
5
have
years?
some in the pipeline. We have also other markets in the world that are asking for an FRDM product. So we are looking at expanding to different markets versus just expanding the product line. So there's different ways in which we could expand. There are a lot of people that approach us now for partnerships, and we are evaluating, several at the moment.
I really like the way that you frame this. You weren't trying to do something huge and grandiose where maybe you make a lot of money eventually, but you felt like the idea had to exist somewhere, and you pushed through a lot of these barriers and challenges along the way because you felt like this just had to be out there. And that kind of entrepreneurial spirit is very common amongst our client base, and it's something that I share personally. And it's enlightening to hear your story and how it's come to fruition for you.